Hello, I am Zinfogel. So, we got the June 2021 Datamine. This is a big update with a ton of content. So, I want to mention a couple things first. One, my voice is a little raspy, and I am not showing signs of shaking this off anytime soon, so I may sound weirder than usual on this video. We will just have to endure that together. Two, this is going to be a two-part video because we have a massive 13 new simpers and one new Singrid. There is a lot of ground to cover here. I think the best way to approach this is, in this first video, we're going to analyze the scoutable simpers, and on the second part, we're going to check out the beeping simpers, how they function, just to categorize everything. Well, without further ado, let's go. I think most people are more interested in the Master Simpers, so let's start with that. Here we go, the Maxie and Groudon. Finally, a new proper ground type striker. And there is only one question to answer here. Is this guy better than Cynthia? Yes, absolutely, and on every capacity. The reason is that Maxie's master passive is somewhat busted, and at 1-5, without any additional boosts to his master passive, he is comparable to a fully decked out 3-5 Cynthia. Just slap a single extra asteroid from his grid, and it's not even a competition. He outdamages her. So if you're looking for a ground type striker, Maxie is a very good option. So in all honesty, everything else is cherry on top. Maxie has got decent stats, he functions as a striker very well, but he's very squishy, which is unfortunate because his turn move has a punishing side effect. It drops defense and special defense, so Maxie requires defensive babysitting, but he's very strong, he will carry a team's offense by himself anyway, so it doesn't matter too much. Especially if you're using a hyper-offensive strat to rush a champion stadium. Either way, Precipice Blades is a better version of Earthquake. AoE 4 bars, much stronger, and it has accuracy issues. 85 is unfortunate because one accuracy buff is not enough to fix it, so you will have to go for the Precipice Blades accuracy tile if you only want to use your turn move once. Do know that an 85% accurate move with +1 accuracy is still very consistent, like 99% accurate or so, but I've used N and Mallow extensively, and they have the same condition where they got 85% accurate moves and they can buff accuracy once, but I've missed multiple times with them, so I am very paranoid about this and I'm gonna keep drilling this during this analysis, but if you don't care about missing once, then don't worry about it. Dark Hit Plus, amazing reliable critical hit rate, and then you got the Solar Beam, so we got a mini Ho here who attempts to strike as a grass type, which is fine, he's functional on that end as well. And the draw move raises attack and special attack by +2 stages, drops defenses by 1 stage, and when the weather is sunny, you also get an extra attack buff, +1 accuracy, and you also get super effective next, so this is a large reason for why Max is so strong, because you get Leon is super preparation multiplier, but you control when it happens, because you have a couple uses for a turn move, so you can also use this for sync nuking, so that is very nice. The sync move doesn't have any side effects, but then we go to the passives. The Master passive gives a massive boost. It gives you a free 20% multiplier for physical damage, and it also lowers physical damage by the 25%. Much like Leon, Maxie is a support in disguise, because he gives you a free damage filter just for existing. This is really good for your tanks, especially when most ground weak content is physically oriented, like ground weak Bruno and ground weak Koga. And then we go to the upgrades. When you have Hoenn team skills, you can have up to a 50% damage boost for your team with 3 Hoenn team skills. Hello? And then a 31% damage reduction. This is far better than the boost that the Galar Flag Bearer provides when you go for full Galar team skills, so this is quite significant for Max's viability. Now the problem is that Hoenn simpers aren't very cohesive. Like you can pair Phoebe with Maxie, but then what are you slapping on the last slot? I'm gonna give you some Maxie team structures in a little bit, but using the full Hoenn Pride boost requires some expert gauge management because we don't really have a lot of Hoenn Simpers to work with here. Do note that Hoenn Pride doesn't affect the sync moves, so you are not gaining damage there. Then we have Sunburst. When you enter the battlefield, you have a free sun, especially useful for permanent field effects on Champion Stadium. Then we have Solar Surge 3. This passive comprises Spinning Sun 3 and Charging Sun 3, so it gives you a damage boost and it also speeds up the move gauge. And there is also Drought Alert 5. We don't understand quite well how this functions because it's being introduced alongside Maxie. The description says that it extends the duration of Sunny Day every time it's summoned, so if you pack a Blaine or take Ninetales, you can get an even longer Sunny Day duration, but Maxie himself can at a minimum provide Sunburst and give you your first Sync with the perks of Sunny Day, so you can bring Hilda or Signature Red to nuke a Champion Stadium stage, or you can nuke with Maxie himself. He's got Solar Flare 5, so he's competent at sync nuking when complemented with his Terra move that provides super effective next. So if you raise him to 6-star EX potential, you get the AoE sync nuke, and he can easily erase a ground weak stage in Champion Stadium. Now, if there is one qualm I have with Maxie, is his dependency on weather. Which makes sense, it's a Groudon dude, of course it wants a sun active. But the problem is that Maxie doesn't have Solarize. What he's got is a Sunburst as well as Solar Sync, which is a 3-5 tool, and it only reactivates Sun once. So on prolonged encounters on 3v9s, you may find this issue where if you don't finish the encounter quickly, Maxie is going to run out of Sun and then he loses a lot of steam. Well, that's everything regarding Maxie's base kit. If you're pulling for budget, 1-5 Maxie is really strong and he's got some very interesting synergies in current metagame, but you probably want to pair him with a Solarize partner so that you can fix his issue of sun wearing off over time. But either way, even if Sunburst passes by, you can still benefit from his Master passive, and I consulted some friends regarding his position in the metagame, and I actually got a Word document listing things that I need to talk about, so we'll start with that. Support-wise, you definitely want to help Maxie buff quicker so that he can capitalize from Sunburst if you are only relying on that for his Sun multipliers. So Phoebe, of course, to activate his Hoenn Master passive, and with that, at a minimum, you get the 35% damage boost from Hoenn Pride. You can also pair him with Lyra for Solarize and also faster buffing, so Maxie doesn't waste any time and can start spamming Precipice Blaze right away. Or you can also pair him with Hilbert if you're only focusing on Precipice Blaze, though Lyra can also help you with a Solar Beam build. As far as offensive partners go, Maxie can actually synergize with a really wide array of strikers, at least relative to Archie. He can feed on a lot of playstyles. And please keep in mind that Hoenn Pride is a physical boost, so that limits the options, at least when talking efficiency. But the first thing I would do will be pairing it with Zinnia and Rayquaza, because she has a playstyle based around weather already, and with Hoenn Pride active, you get a 35% damage boost. So if you do a structure with Phoebe, Maxie, Phoebe, and Zinnia, then her damage actually reaches Lance's damage threshold, so she becomes the strongest physical dragon type in the game, and she's quite good because Phoebe will provide the crit boosts for the entire party. She can also give cages, and Zinnia use massacres things with outrage quickly, though that is a very hyper offensive playstyle, so once you run out of weather, you're kinda hosed and you just have to attempt to survive afterwards. But you can also pair Maxie with Spring May and Megalopony. She will provide support for Phoebe as a tank, and she's a Hoenn Simper, so she also activates Hoenn Pride and can get a massive damage boost that way, and also the speed buffs and whatnot. Move gauges, she will be a really good way to maintain Hoenn Pride through the course of a longer match. You can also pair Maxie with Sync Nuke in red, of course. He will provide the first Sync Nuke through Sunburst, and you can raise size with red. Though if you have Solar Sync, you can maybe attempt to juggle it or something, but that would be more for 3v9 contexts. You can also pair Maxie with the other Charizard, with Leon and Charizard, because this guy has got Earthquake, which is a physical move. So you got a dual ground striking core that way. You can also pair Maxie with Mallow and Sarina. And you know I am a massive Mallow and Sarina stan, so this is something I would really like to try out if I am lucky enough to pull Maxie. But Sarina in particular is a sync pair that massively benefits from Maxie's presence. Although she doesn't activate the Hoenn Pride boost, she still gets the innate 20% Hoenn Pride. But when you pair it with Phoebe, for example, for the faster crit buffs, then you can run a really strong Sun base Sarina with Charging Sun 3 and Solar Flare 5. Remember that you can always benefit from Solar Flare 5 thanks to Sunburst and Maxie Solar passive that extends weather duration, and she can actually start competing with Brendan at this point without the Power Posture active. So Mallow becomes a really strong grass type thanks to him. And then there is also the obvious ones like Brendan. His main damaging move is special, which is unfortunate. You can also run my guy Maxie with a Silver, who would provide a Solar Ice, so you can use them through a longer encounter. And Silver is a physical Sacrifice build, would be a lot more viable this way. If you provide this party with a 6-star EX support bonus, Hoenn Sacrifiers can actually start outperforming Overheat. Just to put into perspective how strong Hoenn Pride is. So you can even run Solar Flare on this build thanks to Drought 5 and have Silver provide constant Solar Ice. One last core I neglected to mention would be Groudon plus Garchomp. You can run them as a legitimate dual ground striking core, and they activate a lot of team skills together, so you would get a massive attack bonus, and you can slap some Hoenn support on the last slot to enhance Hoenn Pride, and you can use Phoebe, or you can use Spring May. Base Spring May. She's a legitimate support in this structure because of X Defense All plus Potion, and she has okay tanking stats when you account for Hoenn Pride's damage filter. And Spring May can provide speed buffs for Cynthia to max out ramming speed. And in this structure, when you account the triple striker team skills, the researcher ones, all of that, Cynthia reaches a similar damage threshold to a Sun build. Again, Hoenn Pride is very busted when played right. Like, the amount of sync pairs that Maxie can support through Hoenn Pride alone, like, you don't even need to focus on the Sun aspect. It's quite large. Maxie is a really good support unit on that front. Well, let's talk grids. 1-5 Maxie is utterly disappointing. His only utility is Precipice Blaze accuracy, and this only helps to give you perfectly accurate moves with one accuracy buff. If you buff twice, this style doesn't even matter, so your base kit is carrying the whole unit, and that's good because Maxie's got some extremely strong utility. I don't think you need to worry about getting more copies for him, and that's for overkilling. 2-5 Maxie is great because he gets a lot more of self-sufficiency. You get a Dire Hit plus Critical Eye 1, so you buff once with Dire Hit plus, and you get maximum critical hit rate, saving you a very crucial turn. And you also get Healing Song 1 to restore health under sunny weather. You also get this meme tile for Solar Beam just to boost it a little bit, better than nothing. And you get MGRs, so yeah, pretty good self-sufficiency, I like it. The full grid gives you multipliers. You get this one called Super Sound 4, which is like Leon Super Preparation 4. When attacking in sunny weather, you get a chance of getting super effective next, and that is a really chunky multiplier. Very good. You get super duper effective 1, sort of disappointing, but whatever. But you get more tools for Solar Beam, so with this you can have a legitimate grass type striker. And you also got Solar Flare 5 for some proper sync nuking and Solar Sync, so you can recharge Sunny Day. This is better alongside some base partners like Mallow or Brendan, but otherwise I think you need to carry Solar Ice if you want to have a Sun active all the time with this guy. One build I would do would be the Signuki build. I think this is the best thing you can do. I am running Precipice Blaze accuracy because you want to use Maxie's trainer move sparingly, use to control the super effective next happening before your sync move. And if you're running this with the dual strikers, then you kind of want the extra turn move left there so that you can use it and let your other striker take gauges. It depends, it's kind of OCD, but you can totally drop it and go for Precipice Blaze and boost it a bit further. But this guy here is a very strong Zinc Nuker because of Solar Flare 5. Go for Sinking Tiles, and with a 6-star EX boost, he annihilates a ground weak stage. And the other build I would run would be a Solar Beam build, I suppose, alongside Mallow. This would be a good way to hammer down grass type damage, and this would also be a good cohesive partner for Borg and Livani, because they got Smarty Pants with Solar Flare 5 for Zinc Nuking, and you got Solar Beam Mind Games 9, so you can debuff a special defense and enhance Smarty Pants for Borg. And you also got the MER3, though you can drop this for more Solar Beam power, which I think is better because Solar Beam is so spammy that you don't really need the MGR. You can drop it, but it depends on whether you want the gauges. And the other build I would run with this Solar Sync, I guess, but you are missing a lot of power when running this. So yeah, Maxie, an absurdly strong unit. The full grid turns him into a Zinc Nuking monster, and he will be quite strong, but the base kit alone is quite potent. I really like this unit. I hope I can pull it. Up next, we have Archie and Kyogre, also a Master Zinc pair. If you thought I was horny for Sycamore, you've seen nothing, my dude. Anyway, I'm gonna be briefer with this because if you saw Maxie, you pretty much know what Archie is going to do. They are polar opposites. They pretty much do the exact same thing, but on different type beats, on different parameters. Now, Archie has a very similar stats to Maxie in that he's really squishy, his turn move tanks his defenses, but you may notice this special attack stat. And I think people on Twitter went ballistic over this. Please do not dare to compare Nate's situation to Archie's. DNA did this to control Archie, so he doesn't suddenly become the most busted Simper in the game. With this nerf special attack, he's slightly weaker than Leon, but he's still an extremely strong unit. Why? Because he gets the free Rain Dance boost. Rain Dance boosts water type damage by 50%, so he becomes quite strong thanks to that. Maxie wasn't nerfed because he doesn't get an innate boost from Sunny, unlike Archie. So please don't take this stat at face value. Archie has a ton of multipliers to make up for it. Now, Archie is a pure special striker. He's got Origin Pulse, Water type, 4 bars, extremely strong. It's AoE and 85% accurate, so it's the exact opposite to Precipice Blaze. Then you got X special attack to maximize your offenses, and Thunder. Archie is a very competent electric type striker, and with a full grid, he actually competes with Enel Zekrom. He's slightly stronger with full multipliers, so he's really good on that end. And when the weather is rainy, Thunder cannot miss, even if the target has evasion buffs, so you don't have to worry about that. And the turn move, it grants +1 accuracy. When the weather is rainy, it also raises an extra stage of accuracy, so you don't have to worry about Origin Pulse missing. And it also gives you +3 crit. That is very efficient. You got the -2 defense and special defense, a big downside, but you can fix that with partners. And when the weather is rainy, it also gives you Groudon Healing. Not to mention, it gives you +2 special attack to top off your X special attack buffs. So this is an amazing turn move. It competes with Alder in efficiency, like 3 rounds of combat, and Archie is fully decked out. So this is really good. Only one use though, obviously. But then you got the Sing move. Now Archie is a fairly poor Zinc Nuker because of his nerf special attack stats. So, well, given the Master Passive, Hoenn Spirit, it's the opposite to Maxie is Master Passive, where instead of focusing on physical damage, it focuses on special damage instead. But it has the exact same metrics. When you have 3 Hoenn team skills, it gives you a 50% damage boost. Otherwise, it's only 20%, and you have a 25% special damage reduction. and it can also be augmented with the Hoenn team skills. Then you got Downpour, calls rainy weather when you enter the field. You can extend it with Flood Alert 5, and you also have a Shower Surge 3, which is a combination of Raging Rain 3 and Racing Rain 3. So, what is the deal with Archie and Kyogre in current metagame? This guy is a water-type striker in a game chock full of water-type strikers. Like, we already have a very good free-to-play options. We have a Varian Empoleon plus Cyrus and Palkia, who are extremely strong in their own right. And then you also have to consider that a lot of people have a May and Swampert invested already, who do what Archie does. She's a water-type striker with Rain Dance, who can aid other water types. And if you want to compare raw numbers separately, Archie is better than May on practical contexts, I want to say, because Archie gets a Hoenn Pride and immediate buffing setup, 3 rounds of combat and he's ready to go, where May needs help buffing to peak faster, and she also has to activate Power Reserves 4 plus Disempower in order to start competing with Archie, which is less practical, but that's not to say that she's weak, it's just that Archie is stronger, so that's something impressive, you know. But when you combine them together, because you know, she is a Hoenn Simper, then you can enhance a Hoenn Pride to the 35% boost, and then they just massacre stages. Like, you don't need to compare them when you can just slap them together on the same team and just murder everything in your path. Number-wise, in a May plus Archie team structure, May can afford to Mega Evolve because Archie Sync Nukes are pathetically weak, so you let May handling the Sync Nuking, and when you Mega Evolve, their damage is very comparable. Archie is still better than May, but when May gets a couple accuracy debuffs to enhance Disempower, then she starts beating Archie, but really this is such a nitpicky comparison, so whatever, dude. They are still two extremely potent water-type strikers that hammer constant damage through the entire enemy field. But for semantics, Archie is better than May on realistic scenarios because he has immediate setup and Hoenn Pride, where May needs help buffing offensively, and she also needs to set up the Disempower and Power Reserves 4 to start out damaging Archie, and realistically that's not going to happen. Slap them together on the same team and you get a monster core. May is the obvious Archie partner because she activates water type skills and also has Rain Dance to extend the duration of weather, so you don't have to depend on Shower Sync to recharge rain. But what else can you do with Archie? You can also pair him with Sinnoh Blue, but well, which unit doesn't pair well with Blastoise? But the two of them in particular activate water type skills. This is important for Archie in particular because he has a very low special attack stat, so any enhancements are very noticeable, much like Silver. And you can also do Roxanne plus Archie and May. That would be good because she provides quick special attack buffs plus the speed to aid with gauge, and with triple Hoenn team skills you get a massive damage boost. And if I recall correctly, Swampert also has Dire Rain? Yeah, right here. So you can also use this to set up faster crit buffs and run a very hyper offensive playstyle. And besides that, you can also run Cyrus and Palkia. Well, Palkia doesn't activate water type skills, but his Hydro Pumps are extremely strong and he really appreciates rain. You can also do New Year's Lance, I suppose. Not as cohesive, but he can juggle gauges with bounce, and he also appreciates Rain too. And Refreshing Rain 1, and you can also do Zinnia. Much like Maxie with Hoenn Pride, what you would be running is a Draco Meteor Grid instead, but you also get a very massive damage boost with that. And also Barry and Empoleon, you know, a strong water nuke. What else do you need? Like, Archie is a little more boring structurally than Maxie because what Archie can run is a handful of special strikers that benefit from rain, and also water type strikers, and you can maybe get a little creative with Hoenn Pride, but that's really it, where Maxie has a lot more sun utility. Alright then, grid-wise, Archie is a carbon copy of Maxie, except that you have some multipliers shuffle around. We're going to be seeing a lot of this on the BP Simpers, but 1-5 Archie has nothing useful. Origin Pulse accuracy is useless because on the rain you get a +2 accuracy buffs, and that's enough to fix it, so it's nothing good. 2-5 gets Paralysis Energy 1 for Thunder, as well as Torrential Tenacity. That's immunity to interferences, but it's normally worthless. And you also get a Rain Gear 2 to quote-unquote tank better AoE damage, but yeah, this doesn't block Sync move damage, so that's a little sketchy. And the full grid gives the multipliers. Now, you might notice that you have Shower Power 3 as well as Sinking Tiles, but I don't recommend Sync nuking with Archie because it's pitifully weak given his low special attack stat. So just let the Mage handle it, that would be better DPS. But speaking of DPS, the standard Kyogre build I would run with is something like this. Just go for all the Origin Pulse styles, the +10 special attack, and Healthy Power at 1. This gives you 10% multiplier when you are full on HP, which is handy when you have regeneration. And you also get Super Rain 4 for a chance of activating super effective move next, so that's even better damage. And you can also do, unironically, a Thunder build, and if you run all the multipliers, Kyogre can outdamage Zekrom, which is crazy because Zekrom is a very strong unit. Kyogre outdamages via very small margin though, and this accounts for his conditional Healthy Power at 1 and Paralysis Energy 1 multipliers. So they more or less rival each other on practical contexts. But you don't have the electric type Sync nuke, so Zekrom is better DPS ultimately, but you can just run this alongside Volner for Electricity Rain, and compositionally you would also have to run May, so the tanking there is a little sketchy, but they are strong enough that they would massacre a stage either way, so it doesn't matter too much. But yeah, Kyogre is more of a one-trick pony. You boost water type damage and spam Origin Pulse, and if you want to run a Thunder DPS build, you need a 3-5. But that's really it. It's a really strong water type striker, so I can't complain about it. And hey, Archie is a really cool character, so why not? Okay, let's continue with some of my favorites. The rest of the scouts are all Alolan, so here we go, the Kiawe and Alolan Marowak. And this Pokemon is in like my top 5 favorite Pokemon, so if I had the money to shell out, I would totally pull for this, but I guess I'll just have to wait until he enters the general pool and get lucky. So, my guy here is a Fire-type support, and Fire-types have a strange situation in this game where the category is bloated with strikers. But as a support, Kiawe has much better splash ability. He's an offensive support, so you don't have to run him alongside other fire types or in zone structures. Now, Kiawe's stats are somewhat average. He's got a similar bulk to Phoebe and Dusknoir, and he has okay attack. I can make offense means with this, specifically because of Kiawe's turn move. You've got +1 attack, +1 special attack, and +1 crit for the entire party with Trainer Move NPR 3, which is reliable. You can totally reset for that and use Kiawe to top off your strikers. Most strikers have X special attack, and at a minimum they should be able to buff +1 crit, so you can use Kiawe to top them off, and Kiawe can also benefit from the offensive buffs, so he can dish out cheap damage. Because you've got Shadow Bone, it's a 2-bar move that has a 20% chance of dropping the target's defense, and it's augmented by Honor Roll 4, so if I understand the calculation right, this is guaranteed defense drops. So Kiawe is great at softening up enemies and allowing your strikers to deal better damage through the defense drops. I am a huge enthusiast of defense drops in this game. They are very underrated, and it's a very potent tool to help your strikers. And the rest of the kit, you've got a potion, always a potent tool to have, and the grid offers the same potion efficiency as Skyla. Kiawe can handle offensive buffing, so I will bring a proper tank like Dawn or Misty, because Kiawe is kid and grid are otherwise lacking in defensive buffs. So if I can help it, I would rather not tank with Kiawe, but his healing bursts are so potent that you can make it work. And you also got Flame Charge. It's a somewhat forgettable aspect of Kiawe's kit because it buffs speed, but Kiawe's speed stat is nothing to write home about, so it's not like he's maintaining gauge, unlike Torchic, who has a 300 plus speed stat, so the difference with Torchic is noticeable, where with Kiawe, yeah, it helps, but I'd rather spam Shadow Bone to get defense drops. Plus, it's stronger than Flame Charge. Now, as far as the scene goes, you don't have any side effects, but the passives are also really good, and this is what turns Kiawe into a very good tool for hyper offense archetypes. You've got a Dashing Team 5, which gives you a 60% chance of raising speed for all party members. It's basically an equivalent to Team Fast Track. And a Quick Tempo, when you enter the field, you provide move gauge acceleration. So this is also an amazing complement to the permanent field effects parameter in Champion Stadium. So the deal with Kiawe's kit is topping off the offenses of your strikers and help around the battlefield with healing and also defense drops. Quick Tempo is somewhat wasted on standard contexts where before Fierce Sync you are normally buffing all your stats instead of attacking, but if you do something crazy like Hilbert plus Kiawe and then some 4-bar striker, then I can see some value in this passive. But this is mostly for the permanent field effects parameter in Champion Stadium. So it's a potent kit. This is the love child between Skyla and Hilbert. It's a more offensively oriented one. Kiawe is nothing insane like a 3-5 Hilbert, but you do have the potential to max out the critical hit rate for the entire party with a Trainer Move NPR3 or Focus Group 2. And with the healing bursts, I would much prefer using this over Torchic, because Kiawe's utility is much stronger. His mixed offensive buffs are less powerful than Torchic, but he's got Shadow Bone, he's got the Dashing Team 5 and Potion, so that's more powerful in the long run. As far as the grid goes, the 1-5 grid is absolutely dreadful. You only have a 1 Potion NPR2 tile. Okay, you are dependent on your base kit. Then the 2-5 grid is a lot more interesting because you get the proper NPR3 for the train move, which I think is a very important part of Kiawe's kit. But, well, if you don't like resetting, that's up to you, but I do that very often. Now, you also got Critical Strike 3 used to help augment your offense a little bit, but Shadow Bone and Flame Charge are pitifully weak, so don't expect massive numbers out of that. You got MGRs, that's also really nice for gauge management, and a couple Master Healer 1 tiles for Potion, so it's more potent. Now, the 3-5 grid, the full grid, has this thing called Critical Healing 1. It's a 20% chance of proccing healing when you crit. So Celine has this passive, and we know this is regeneration tier scaling, but it is free healing and it spares you from using potion occasionally, so it's nice. You also got a Focus Group 2, which can raise critical hit rate by using your regular attacks. It's a 30% chance, so this is great for Battlefield climbing in particular. I would consider that in that context. And you also got Endurance and Wise Entry 2 to help Kiawe tank in case you have to do that, but I would not recommend it again. And there is also Unfortuitous 4 to help you debuff enemy stats. This is particularly great to attempt to debuff evasion, so you can raise accuracy for inaccurate strikers. But when it happens, it will take forever. This is good for Legendary Arena, but not much else. And some meme offensive multipliers. Now, you know that I'm going to make Marowak as a striker, but the first build I would run is the typical Potion, Bob build. Critical Healing 1 is somewhat unreliable, so you can totally sack it and go for Wise Entry instead. Or you can also go around the Trainer Move NPR tile and go for Focus Group 2, so you don't have to reset for it. So it depends on what you want to go for. And really, the Potion Master Healer tiles and NPR tiles is all you need for Marowak to be functional. It's another Potion spammer, given what the base kit provides. Now, the dumb thing I would do would be attempting to run this as a ghost type striker, because with insult to injury you can scale Shadow Bone, and all the Shadow Bone tiles are fairly cheap. They are only 2 costs of energy, so you can grab all the attack plus tiles as well as critical strike 3, and with this this would be somewhat comparable to Phoebe as a ghost type striker. I will totally attempt this if I have the opportunity. But you are still better off using Giovanni and Mewtwo for ghost type damage. So this is mostly for funsies. I would never recommend Marowak as a proper striker, because the moves are just too weak. They don't have good scaling. Even if you give him all the flame charge tiles, it is still not very strong, even with some multiplier. So Marowak is a good utility unit. I like it a lot. But my bias for this being one of my favorite Pokemon is also pushing my opinion here. Dude, finally we have a Not Kukui and the VGC cat. I am so excited for this thing pair. Like, Incineroar is a really cool Pokemon conceptually, and the Mask Royal, I don't remember what he did in his game, but he looks like a badass, so I hope I can pull this early. But more importantly, this guy is a tech dark type, and he focuses on global debuffing. And oh boy, I love debuffing. It's one of my favorite playstyles, so let's check him out. Now, Incineroar's stat spread is very reminiscent of Mimirola. Like, he's a more offensively oriented tech, and you got okay tanking stats. I wouldn't have to complain about surviving some damage with this guy. The speed stat is horrid, but when we see the kid, you will notice that won't matter too much. But yeah, nothing too impressive. Then we got the moves, Brutal Swing, 2 bars, AoE, okay base power for a 2-bar move, I suppose, but the grid enhances it by a fair margin. And then you got X Attack to help your offenses, Darkest Lariat, it ignores enemy stat raises, but this doesn't matter because crits also do that, and the turn move unfortunately doesn't have crit buffs. You raise evasion by 1 stage and you get a +3 speed for the entire party, and with a couple turn move uses, you maximize it. And this is why the Mask Royal's speed is not that big of an issue, because you can carry that through your partners, and the fact that you max speed reliably is amazing, because your sync move has innate inertia. So yeah, a very self-sufficient unit, all things considered, if you ignore the lack of crit buffs, but what unit doesn't need support in this game? So then we got the 35-1, guaranteed attack stat drops when you enter the field, and dominating sync 5, so you would think this is like a pecking order, but given the description, if you drop the enemy's attack once, that means that you get this sync buff immediately. The thing with the Mask Royal is that his base kit offers a very reliable sync multiplier. You immediately activate the dominating sync 5 with 35-1, and you've also got the innate inertia with +6 speed buffs. So this guy maintains himself very, very well. Slap a Hilbert in there and you're good to go. So then we got the Dishearten 9, and this is like Sundering 9, but instead of debuffing defense and special defense, it debuffs attack and or defense. So as far as I can tell, the Mask Royal is DNA's attempt at making attack debuffs more relevant. You got 35-1 with Dishearten 9, plus the defense debuffs, so you can also enhance your offense that way. But strictly speaking, this basically is a little weak, except for the Sync because Brutal Swing and Darkest Lariat don't output that good damage. This is really weak for a 5-5. But the focus here is on Sync Nuking for the most part, the utility. And oh boy, I love me some utility in the morning. The way I would play the Mask Royal would be like a Kukui, funnily enough. Like, I would use it as a support for a proper dark type DPS, like a Fall Hilbert, and constantly spam Brutal Swing to get the attack drops, the defense drops, use control enemy damage, and also debuff them to help Hilbert. And because Incineroar can handle Sync Nuking, then you can drop Haymaker on Fall Hilbert and use Insult to Injury with Crunch or Double Edge, which would be more viable if your Fall Hilbert doesn't have the 6-star EX boost, so that would be quite a strong combination. And the Mask Royal can aid multiple strikers this way because of his speed buffs. And the grid, dude, like, I haven't felt this giddy since Malowan's Arena. I can do really fun things with this unit. But the 1-5 grid is absolutely pathetic and not worth looking at. The 2-5 grid is a lot better because you don't get 1, not 2. you get 4 multipliers. You get ramming speed and bob and weave, and this is free because your turn move enhances them immediately. So with both of these, you get a really good way of enhancing Brutal Swing and Darkest Lariat, and they can start dealing good damage at that point. It's worth noting that if you are running Bob and Weave, you kinda want New Year's Lily as a cohesive partner because she raises Creed and she also gives you evasion buffs with her turn move to top off Bob and Weave. With the turn move, Incineroar gets +2 evasion innately, so it kinda needs help scaling there. And you also got Insult to Injury, so when you debuff the enemy defense, you enhance your moves. So this is great with Disheartening 9. I would maybe consider pairing this with Defense Crush 2 as well, but perhaps Critical Strike 2 is a better choice when using this as a proper striker. But then you also have a pecking order, so you don't only have your 2 extremely good and reliable sync multipliers, you have a pecking order as well, enhanced by Disheartening 9 and Terrify 1. So yeah, this is quite monstrous, all things considered. So something I would do would be something like this. Still spamming Brutal Swing and go for all the Brutal Swing tiles just to give it much better enhancement. So 70 BP at base, but then you enhance it with ramming speed and bob and weave and the scaling of Insult to Injury. And after a few defense drops, it will do really good damage. This is quite scary considering the Sync Nuke. And the Terrify Grid, like, I don't even know what I want to do at this point because you have a lot of really good options. You have Power Surge 5 for an even more potent multiplier, though it's difficult to set up, so most strikers who have this usually ignore it. But you also have a Power Posture for another move multiplier, and you also got all this evasion garbage. But if you don't run Bob and Weave, you don't even have to worry about maximizing evasion, and the more optimal Incineroar builds skip it because of the hassle of selling it up anyway. You also got a Demoralize too, so when you sync, you debuff enemy attack by 2 stages, which is better in 3v9s, but on Champion Stadium you don't really need this because this Disheartening 9 plus Terrify will handle the attack drops already. So something I would do would be a sync nuking build, like go for a sinking tiles just to make sure that Incineroar kills garbage. But I appreciate the extra Terrify 1 tile so that you can get that reliable extra attack debuff for pecking order, especially handy for Champion Stadium. Now, Incineroar's best build is focused on sync nuking for sure, but as a pure dark type striker, it's fairly contentious because it's really hard to pinpoint what is best for Incineroar when it has so many options. So we need to see this in practice to make a proper assessment, but Darkest Lariat is strong when you account for the multipliers, so you can run something like this if you want pure dark type damage, but again, we really need to see this on the battlefield before making a proper assessment. I don't know what else to say about the Mask Royal. This guy is a really fun unit to use, and it can operate as well as a striker, but most importantly as a sync nuker and utility unit. Up next, we got the Water Trial Captain, Lana Araquanid. And in the main series games, Araquanid is a very powerful water type. It's got this ability called Water Bubble that doubles water type damage, but it's also got a myriad of defensive tools, and that's the direction DNA decided to take. We got water type support, which is nice because we are bloated with water type strikers anyway, but this is a bizarre combination of moves. I'm not sure what to make of it. I guess I am scared because we haven't seen anything like this quite yet, but we'll see what Lana can do for us. So she's similar to Kiawe stat-wise, decent, like a Phoebe tier bulk, it's manageable, but she's got more defensive tools, so she can be a competent tank. We got War Gun, it's an extremely spammy 1-bar move, and you also got a Propelling Strike 9, so that means that anytime you land a move successfully, you recharge gauge. It's MGR 9, which is fantastic on a 1-bar spam. You know how Skyla has cost MGR 9 and she's great for maintaining gauge and advancing a sync countdown? Lana does the same on her base kit. And then we got Wyguard. Roxanne got her utility stolen from her, and this move forces Araquanid into a defensive posture, and then Araquanid cannot do anything until the enemy uses an AoE move, and then Araquanid blocks it and prevents any damage altogether. You can break the defensive posture yourself by using Wyguard again, but then you consume the MP and nothing happens, and Wyguard only has 1 MP, so you have to use it very wisely. This is great for Champion Stadium after you defeated the Centermon, then you know how the sides often spam strong AoE moves, and then you can use Lana to block them. And then suddenly you become New Year's Lily because you've got Leech Life, and this is your more or less main damaging move because you restore health, you drain it, just like using Giga Drain with Rosa. And this is a good way to maintain Lana healthy because she does have a decent attack stat considering that she's got a vampire kit. Normally they nerf draining moves with very low stats to keep them in check. But considering that you also have Propelling Strike 9, you recharge gauge every time you use Leech Life, so it's easier to spam than with other vampire kits. That's a nice perk that Araquanid's got. And the third move is similar to Elio's, where you consume gauges to use it, and if you consume 3 gauges, then you get a +4 attack, +4 defense for a party, and it also adds regeneration. So that is a really strong defensive utility. And attack and defense buffs are remarkably hard to come by. Like, off the top of my head, I can only think of Egmons who do that, and then Skyla with Fanfare 2, and also the obvious Omni buffers like Sinnoh Blue and Springborg, but it's not easy to get that exact combination in current metagame. So this is one of Lana's better traits. This turn move is quite good and it covers a niche that is difficult to come by for more defensive playstyles. And your other passives are Group Fire Guard and Group Water Guard, so you also filter fire and water type damage for the entire party. This doesn't block sync move damage, but it's still quite nice, especially on things like Ground Weak Shontal, who loves to spam Heatwave, or Grass Weak Lorelei, who spams Surf. It's really nice to have. So what is Lana offering in current metagame? She's got a defensive playstyle. She gives you very, very nice buffs plus regeneration and an extremely spammy MGR9 water gun plus the recovery from Leech Life, but this is not going to help you do prison clears in Master Mode. So much like a Skyla, if you have to hang out for a long time against an enemy, then Lana can cover you on several fronts. Now, one thing I love about Lana is that she's got an extremely good grid through all her stages. Her 1-5 grid is quite good for what it's worth. You got Unbending and Stalwart to block defensive stat drops and Leech Life MGR3, so you have the guaranteed move gauge from Propelling Strike 9 plus another chance of getting move gauge back when you use Leech Life. That is quite nice. And MGR3 on the turn move, that doesn't help much, but you don't have NPR on the turn move ever on the grid, so it doesn't matter too much. But you've also got a Refreshing Rain 1, so if you happen to slap Lana alongside Signals of Greensley plus May, for example, so you can offer Greensley attack buffs, then you can also get occasional recovery from the rain, because it stacks with regeneration, so you are restoring 12.5% HP every time you take an action in rainy weather, which is really nice. Like, I don't complain about this 1-5 grid at all. It's, what is wishing one that is quite as good. Then the 2-5 grid, you get Catalytic Cure 1. That's a 20% chance of restoring 20% HP, I think. It's the same that Kaelin gets, but it's less of a chance of happening. Endurance to survive any surprise hits you may not be expecting. You get free vigilance, so you don't have to roll for the lucky skill. And some other tools. Rain Gear 1 helps in rain structures. It filters some damage from the enemy. And also Water Gun MGR3, so you can recharge your more gauge when spamming Water Gun, which is nice, but you can go for this. It wouldn't be a bad idea, but I guess Water Gun is so spammy to begin with that I don't think it's quite necessary. You also get Critical Strike 1. Now, I love running supports as offense, but I don't think Lana can quite pull it off until the 3-5 grid, because you get the meme multipliers at that point. Now, the 3-5 grid, what this does is it gives you Tough Cookie HP trade-off, so some offensive multipliers. You get Racing Rain 2 to aid with the gauge in rain structures. You get a Stamina Reserve 6, so if Lana gets low on health, you get a move gauge recharge. It can be helpful, but not that much. You also get the Block and Heal 9. Now, if you successfully block something with Wide Guard, you are guaranteed to restore some health, and this is fairly predictable if you understand how Champion Stadium works or how a full force battle is supposed to advance. Like a full force battles are scripted, so you can expect the same moves all the time, and you can capitalize off of that. And you also get Wide Guard MP Refresh 5. So that's a 60% chance of refreshing Wide Guard. It's not guaranteed, but it's very reliable, much like Sabrina's Reflect. So you can expect to spam a Wide Guard repeatedly through the course of a match. Now, I am not quite sure what to run with my girl Lana here as a standard build. I guess I would do something like this with Water Gun and MGRs and whatnot, and the blocking tools. But at this point, you can also do a proper Vampire kit because you get the multipliers, and it would deal decent damage, and Lana can sustain herself much better through Leech Life. You get a tough cookie, reliable multiplier considering the trainer move, and when you're low on health, you also regain even more HP. So yeah, at this point you can start spamming Leech Life if you are solidly using Lana for restoration. But yeah, Lana has a strange niche in the metagame, but she is quite strong. I wouldn't complain about having to use Lana. Oh boy, I am editing while recording this, and this video is already 40 minutes long. I am so sorry. Anyway, the last scarable unit for this batch is Hala and Crabominable. And DNA chose to make this a nice type striker because Crabominable is ice and fighting type, even though Hala is a fighting type specialist, but whatever. I appreciate the options, especially now that Gets is left and Summer Steven is a seasonal unit. But there is one issue that we need to address right away, which is the primary complaint for this unit, and that is the speed stat, 120, the lowest in the game I believe, and it's complemented by Ice Hammer, which also lowers speed. Now, I don't know how this is an issue. Every single striker in this game needs support. Like, even Red needs support. He needs Sunny Day and attack buffs to sing Nuke faster. The Anthem needs gauges. Lance needs Creed special attack and gauges. And needs Creed and Electric Rain. So the deal with Hala is that yes, he's horribly slow, so that means he needs gauges. What is the problem? You can afford that because he's an extremely self-sufficient striker. You get a Dire Hit Plus and your trainer move radically raises attack. It gives you +6 attack on a single use. It's a single use trainer move. And it also raises accuracy, which fixes Ice Hammer's accuracy issues. And it also allows you to endure in case you have to survive a random AoE crit. So you can afford the gauge support for Hala. I can just slap Skyla and Kukui in there and I am not even going to feel Hala's gauge issues. I think people are overestimating how important speed is when unboosted. Like, compare a 400 speed tech with a level 1 Eggmon who have like 5 speed or whatever. It barely matters. So, like, I'm going to put a comparison to Fading so you can even notice. But the deal with the speed is that it really starts picking up when you start investing in it, when you get speed buffs and gauge acceleration. And the deal with Hala is that he's not contributing that much to it, but it doesn't matter because your partners are carrying it instead. So then he can focus on striking. That's his deal. He's a striker, dude. Support him. Give him what he needs. I think I got slightly heated there, but I get really annoyed when people assume the viability of units without even making an attempt at using them. So, I don't know. Well, with that little debacle, I think I told you everything that Hala does. He's a self-sufficient ice-type striker. Ice Hammer is absurdly strong. Turn move fixes the accuracy issues. You also have Brick Break, which is a meme used to pretend that Hala is a fighting type, but it's really weak. It's never out-damaging Ice Hammer, even on super effective contexts. It removes Reflect and Light Screen, but it doesn't matter because crits bypass screens anyway. And the sync move doesn't have any side effects. Now, the passives, you get Fear State 6. I think this is a little nod to how, because they are family, but yeah, and recovery for free, that's amazing. And 60%, so it's potent. Something I forgot to mention is that Hala has incredible bulk. He's got 701 HP, 192 defense, and 176 special defense at base, without any grid or 6-star EX boost or whatever. you can unironically tank with that, and with First Stage 6 plus Endure, it's nearly impossible to kill Hala with AoE damage. You also got Headstrong, you cannot drop your attack even if the enemy attempts to, with 35 or whatever, and you've also got Slow Wind up at 1, so no other unit in the game has this passive, so we will understand how it functions when Hala drops, but supposedly it gives you a 10% multiplier when your speed is lower. So yeah, it functions alongside Ice Hammer, but the boost is nearly negligible, which is why I still recommend running Skyla plus Kukui just to manage gauge issues if you are still concerned about that. Now, where do we place Hala in the metagame? He's weaker than Getsis, but stronger than Summer Steven, so he's a competent Ice-type striker if you miss Getsis and need to cover that end. But Hala is entirely self-sufficient. He doesn't need offensive support in the slightest, so you can afford more defensive partners, and as you can see, you also got some Hail tiles, so you can run Candice or Tech Lapras or whatever, or even Summer Steven, as we will discuss in a little bit. But 1-5 Hala is boring. You get NPR on the turn move, which is an attempt at getting Endure again, I suppose. 2-5 gives you Haymaker and Ice Hammer MGR3. So, quite handy. Hala's nuke is below Getsis, but considering the 6-star EX boost, which is a striker role, you get the AoE instead, so that's easier for Champion Stadium clears. And also Healing Hail 1, but you shouldn't run Hail Hala until the 35 grid, because you get Hasty Hail 2, as well as Invigorating Hail 2, so that's a proper multiplier for Ice Hammer, which is potent considering that, you know, it's a 4-bar move, any multiplier will greatly enhance it. But for Hail structures, Hasty Hail is far more important because it recharges the move gauge. And for these weather-based move gauge passives, they aren't based on your speed stat, they affect the global move gauge instead, so your partners are still carrying that. And you can totally run Summer Steven and Rosanta in this structure. Rosanta gives move gauge acceleration, and Summer Steven has excellent gauge generation with his dual MGR3, so that is definitely viable. So something I would do for Hail Hala is maybe this, and have Hala Signuke if you have to use Candice, for example. But you can also drop the sinking tiles if Summer Steven is bringing permanent hail, and just go for Ice Hammer MGR3 and super duper effective, I suppose, just to give you a better DPS unit. But the standard Hala grid I would run would include Haymaker as well as Super Preparation 9, just to capitalize off of the Ice Nuke, and if you 6-star EX Hala, you also get the AoE Nuke, and you can erase Champion Stadium stages with this. It will be a really easy clear. So because the focus is on Sync Nuking, I didn't bother too much with Ice Hammer multipliers, because it's so absurdly strong that you don't need to boost it, but if you want to, then you can drop Sinking Tiles and go for super duper effective or what have you. Besides that, you also got Yielding too, but I don't think Hala is ever going to get hit by enough AoE moves for that to be relevant. There is also this new passive here, 2 for 2, tied to Brick Break, 30% chance of giving you free move next when you use Brick Break. So this is DNA's attempt at giving Hala some shuffling. If you are low on gauges, you can spam Brick Break in the hopes of getting free move next, so you can keep using Ice Hammer. But I don't think this is great, because you should be fixing Hala's gauge issues with supports instead, and focus on spamming Ice Hammer. Well, that's Hala. Very straightforward, self-sufficient striker who has gauge issues. Just fix him up and you'll be good to go. I'm just especially ticked because of how people are exaggerating the gauge issues on Hala. It really doesn't matter, dude. In practice, it's going to be fine. And well then, that is it for this video. We have analyzed all the scoutable Simpers, but then we have all the BP Simpers as well as Solgaleo, and I'm also going to check out the new Egmont family, the Tangela family, and that's going to be on the second part for this video, so be on the lookout for that. Thank you for watching, stay healthy, and I hope to see you another time.